Hello and welcome to another episode of Casting Reflections on Black Mirror, the podcast that takes an episode of Black Mirror and, as the name suggests, casts reflections. And I know we do this every time, but I'm laughing, but this time, because people won't have heard it, because I'll have edited it out, or shall I leave it in?
I'd leave it in to explain the awkwardness at the start.
If I've left it in, you've heard me mess up. If I haven't, then Dan's making the other Dan's making a big deal about nothing.
Because if people feel like I seem irritated, they know what I've got a reason now.
Right, I think we should move swiftly on to the episode, right? So, Dan, we are at the end of season 5 already. That was quite a whistle-stop tour of season 5, wasn't it?
It was. How many? So, what episode does this make this?
I don't know. That's something we can Google.
Oh, okay.
Probably should have done. It's, I don't know, should we say something like 20?
It feels about 20, doesn't
it? Yeah. Maybe we could make it a question for people at home.
A test.
Yeah, there's 27 episodes, and if the last season has got 520, this will be 22. That's not bad.
Episode 22. That's good, isn't it?
22. Yeah. So, last episode of this season, and it is called Rachel, Jack and Ashley 2, written by Charlie Brooker, directed by Anne Sawitsky, and as the other episodes, debuted on the 5th of June 2019. Now, this one, I think the challenge we're going to have is not to call one of the characters Miley Cyrus throughout this episode, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
This stars Miley Cyrus, who we'll come on to after. I thought she was really good in this, actually.
She was good, and we'll obviously have this conversation later, but I feel like she was playing herself because it feels a very similar story. It mirrors real life a little bit. Not the whole thing, but the bit she was doing.
And not that I saw it, but didn't it kind of also mimic her TV show? Because in her TV show, wasn't she playing two people?
In her TV show, I don't know if she was
Hannah
playing
Montana.
two. I know she played a character, Hannah Montana, but then she had a bit of a character change, didn't she?
Yeah, well, I think she was playing herself and the alter ego, which in here, we'll come into in here, she's obviously not who she is initially. And also, I thought she was amazing as the robot, but we'll come on to that. Yeah, I'm only going to call out a few the actors. So yeah, we've got Miley Cyrus as Ashley and Ashley 2. You've got, if I'm saying this right, Angourie Rice as Rachel and Madison Davenport as Jack. Now, I messaged you. Did you get the MCU connection?
No. Tell me. And I know you said that beforehand, but I've completely watched the episode. I didn't realise. No.
It was Rachel. She is in the new Spider-Man films.
Is she?
Yeah, she is. Is it Betty Brant?
So the younger sister.
Yeah.
What character does she play in the Spider-Man film?
Betty Brant. The only one I could, because I haven't watched those films for a long time, but you know they're doing the in-school news report.
Yes,
news program. That's her.
Yeah. Yes. It's all clicked. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I recognise her.
Yeah, so the MCU link continues. Anyway, you're taking this one, so over to you. Let's hear about the show.
Yes, so as you said, the show's based mainly around a character called Rachel. It opens up with a Rachel kind of in a school, looking quite lonely in a school canteen and watching a music video of Ashley, who is Miley Cyrus, doing what looks like YouTube videos or her act or her singing. She kind of packs up from a school canteen. As she's walking out, she kind of sees a talent show poster that a teacher is putting up. But I've got at this point, she's obviously quite shy and quite introverted, because when the teacher, and obviously a teacher is kind of meant to be a safe person to speak to in a school, when a teacher tried to speak to her about, oh, why don't you come along and try it, she just ran away without saying a word.
Yeah.
So we kind of get the impression that she's introverted. She doesn't have many friends. She's quite lonely from the off. As she comes up outside the school, she's picked up by her dad and her sister, Jack. And then a bit of conversation, you begin to find out that actually she's a new kid in school, and I can't remember if they've just moved to the area or whether she's just changed schools. I think it's moved to the area, isn't it? And she's a new kid in school. And obviously it's quite clear that she's a big fan of Ashley, the singer. And you kind of see around her room, and the two sisters share a room, and on Rachel's side, you see lots of posters of Ashley. And on Jack's side, you see a lot of, what would you say, more rock type theme posters, maybe bordering on a little bit gothic in some areas, but a bit more rock metal type theme, isn't it?
Yeah, and they make it quite obvious when you look at the two sisters as well, don't they? So Rachel's blonde hair and very innocent looking, and yeah, Jack is very, yeah, like you said, the dark hair, the rock clothes. The only thing I wanted to go back on, because you were saying about, yeah, absolutely, she's quite meek and introvert, and the dad picks her up in the business van. He's like a rat catcher, isn't he? And
Yeah,
it's like a van that's made to look like a rat, isn't it? And I
yeah.
was thinking of all the people, if you were that introverted shy to be picked up from school by that.
Yeah, and the other thing I kind of clocked from that scene as well, and it kind of goes on, and you kind of get it later on, is the dad seems very separated to the daughters.
Yeah, yeah,
He's obviously not as close to them as some sort of parents and kids' relationships are. But yes, it then kind of goes on to talk about his business, and he will show his business, which is kind of a rat catcher. And I think he's trying to develop like an electronic rat catcher, isn't it? That kind
like a
of wanders.
humane one. Yeah,
Yeah, and it wanders around as a mouse, doesn't it? And then it kind of makes contact with another mouse and electrocutes it.
stuns it. Yeah, or
Yeah,
tries to. Yeah,
which with all the technology in the Black Mirror universe,
yeah,
it feels like that's quite low tech, but he's still struggling with it.
yeah,
Anyway, so then it kind of cuts to Ashley, who is doing some sort of talk show, who's advertising her song. And then she goes on to advertise a. Well, actually, first of all, she makes a point of saying that when she gets inspired to write a song, it's always in her sleep. The lyrics kind of come to her in her sleep, and she kind of wakes up and writes them down before she forgets them. And that obviously becomes a big part of the story. And then she goes on to launch a talk about her new Ashley 2 doll, which is an AI generated miniature version of Ashley. But the bit I kind of picked up on here, as soon as it kind of cut to the commercial, the real Ashley just kind of slumps, doesn't she?
yeah.
There's obviously a front that she's putting on at that point to kind of sell this doll.
And we could see that her aunt is also the manager, and I think that's also trying to be clear there that the aunt is in control.
Yes. Yes. I can't remember if it's at that point. No, I think it's a bit later on where it cuts to the aunt and her living together. Then it cuts back to Rachel, who asks her dad, can I get an Ashley 2 doll for my birthday? But I think the key point here is obviously that Rachel is obviously a fangirl of Ashley and is obsessed with her. And the other thing is that the dad has no idea what this Ashley is. So he's obviously not paying an interest in her interest at all. And also didn't know when her birthday was and had to be reminded that her birthday was coming up in a few days' time by Jack. But he does go out and get the present, and she opens up an Ashley 2 doll on her birthday. And what I also noticed at this point, this is the first time, as she kind of unwraps the doll and kind of sets it up and starts talking about it. It obviously clearly depicts that she's been talking to this. She talks to this doll for hours until the hours of the evening. But also, it's the first time it feels like that she's being herself and talking. It's the first time she's having a conversation out loud. She's happy. Her whole demeanor's changed because she's now got this doll that she can kind of talk to.
Because this doll was marketed like it was being a friend, and it's supposedly Ashley's personality, isn't it? And it's not a robot as such, because a robot makes it sound like it's just programmed. But it's like you said, you can have a conversation with it, and it will tell you everything about Ashley because it's her, isn't it?
Yeah, it's her, and it's also as well. It learns as it goes on. So it starts off with the basic questions like, "What's your name?" and "What do your parents do?" and then it quickly comes out that the sister's mum passed away a couple of years ago, and then the doll even shows remorse, which I thought was not remorse or empathy towards the sisters. I also thought it was quite interesting that once Rachel went out to the bathroom, how the doll then turned around and started interacting with Jack, who was kind of playing a guitar with her headphones on, wasn't she? And kind of said, "Your music's really good." And this kind of comes out later in the episode, doesn't it? And it kind of all links up, but kind of says that Jack's quite inspirational, and then Jack starts having a conversation with it. And I think Jack almost gets a little bit freaked out and says, "Go to sleep. I don't want to talk to you anymore." But not because she hates the doll, but I think she gets a bit freaked out that she's actually enjoying a conversation with the doll. Anything to add at that point?
No, the only thing I'd go back to is I think The only other thing that happened with Ashley was we see her from that promotion or whatever it was. I can't remember now. She's unhappy in the car, and then she wakes up that night to write a song, but it's talking about a caged animal. And I think she's playing it the next day, and her aunt hears it, and she goes, "Oh, that's a departure from your normal sound. Are you okay?"
And it's at that point it's clear that they're living together, isn't it? And they're a bit more than, because I think it's the first time I clocked that those two were living together or kind of related in some way. But yeah, she wakes up in the middle of the night and definitely starts singing a song. And when Catherine is the auntie?
I think it's Catherine.
Yeah. When Catherine kind of makes those comments, Ashley kind of just dismisses it and goes, "Oh, it's just garbage. It's just rubbish."
Because she's very pop. The music's very poppy, isn't it? Like teenage pop, and this was a lot darker.
Yes, agreed. But then Catherine has a conversation with the agency, isn't it? I assume it's like an agency or the management team or whatever that kind of is looking after Ashley. And it becomes clear that Ashley is now not producing the music that she needs. There's something wrong there. She's obviously going through something where she's not creating the pop music that she's known for. And it's obviously a bit of a worry. Meanwhile, we go back to Ashley 2. This is going to be confusing. Yeah. We go back to, we'll call them Ashley 1 and Ashley 2. We go back to Ashley 2, and she's talking to Rachel about a beauty contest. And this Ashley 2 doll is very inspirational, very, you can do whatever you desire or what you believe, and kind of gives up a motivation and gets to a point where she talks Rachel into...
it's a talent contest, I think, isn't it?
Talent contest, yeah. And they obviously then go through this Ashley 2 doll, then helps her train, doesn't she? And she kind of has like an app and shows her the dance moves and etc., and helps her train to a point where she's ready to enter this talent contest or dance show.
And again, that's important, right? Because it shows her growing in confidence as well, doesn't it? Coming out of her shell a little bit.
Yes, agreed. Then it cuts back to Ashley 1, where we have a scene in the dressing room where Ashley is sitting there without her pink, like, teenage wig on, without the usual makeup on. She's approached by her team, and then a few interactions happen where you can tell that Ashley's obviously not happy, but her aunt gives her some medication to take. She takes it. And then when they leave the room, she takes the medication out of her mouth, and it's clear that she's then hoarding or stockpiling medication in her drawer that she should be taking daily. So at that point, we assume it's some sort of antidepressant or some sort of...
actually, no, yeah. Sorry, no, because I had that. So the bit you were saying about where they were saying they hadn't got the next album ready or something. Yeah, she was complaining that they haven't started it. And one of the crew, the doctor, says something about hallucinogenics to stimulate her.
Yes, that's what we are, yeah.
But then the aunt says something like, "Oh, she's already on meds or something." So we didn't know at that point what they're doing, but we know they're giving her something to maybe keep her under control. And then, the bit you said, absolutely. We then see she hasn't actually been taking them.
Yeah. We now cut back to the dance show or the talent show, and she's obviously dressed up as Ashley and does her dance. And there's a couple of things that kind of happen here of note. Firstly, is the dad walks off to try and sell his rat trap to the caretaker or the janitor. However, it's a junior janitor, isn't it? It's not even the guy that's in charge, so he can't make any decisions. So that's the first thing. So he's not watching his daughter do his talent show. So that's obviously a big thing. And the second thing is that Rachel then falls over as she's doing the dance and gets embarrassed and kind of walks off the stage, upset, obviously emotional. And on the journey on the way home, I think the key line is that she says that she let Ashley 2 down. And the sister just glares at her, doesn't she? It's kind of like, what the hell are you talking about? You can't let a doll down. Then we cut back to the management team of Ashley, who come into Catherine and say, "We've been watching the CCTV as you instructed us to put cameras in the room. We need to show you this video of her stockpiling the meds." And also they bring in a diary, don't they, that she's kind of been writing, and it's quite clear she's not in a state of mind at the moment to be producing pop music. So we cut back to the doll's house, and Rachel is heading off to go to a swimming lesson. And Jack takes this opportunity to take Rachel to and kind of host what she calls an intervention and hides the doll in the loft. But when Rachel gets back, she actually says she's thrown it away, and you kind of get that aggressive, emotional reaction from Rachel because it's quite clear she's become dependent on this doll as her best friend.
Well, that's it. They argue Jack calls it poison, and Rachel says it was her only friend since their mum died, and all the sister does is mope around. And if I remember right, I think at that bit, Jack does look quite upset. Not upset, but I think it registers with her, doesn't it?
Yes. So then we go back to Ashley 1, who's now in the apartment. And I say apartment, it's a massive, like, Beverly Malibu. I think it's in Malibu, isn't it?
It looks like that, doesn't it? Let's just say it is. Yeah.
She gets into an argument with her aunt, and the aunt kind of makes it clear that she knows about the hoarding of the stockpiling of the drugs. There's a massive argument. It becomes clear that actually the aunt kind of took Ashley in at the age of 22 when both her parents died. So she's been playing mum to her for quite a while. And obviously they're now at a point where how do I say this? Catherine and the kind of a management team kind of, at this point, it's very clear they've created a product rather than a person. And they're trying to sell the product as it is because they know it's successful. And obviously we're getting to a point now where Ashley doesn't fit the product or doesn't want to be that product anymore. And this is what they kind of have an argument about. And they really kick off. Ashley kind of stands up. Catherine goes, sit down, sit down, sit down. And then it becomes clear that actually Ashley has been spiked with all those hallucinogenics that was in the tin and the stockpile all in one go. And that puts her into a coma. Yeah, puts her into a coma, doesn't it? And it kind of reported on the news that Ashley O is now in a coma. They kind of word it that there's no end date of her coming out, wasn't it? Like they word it like it's not a short-term thing.
They call it a shellfish allergy, don't they?
Yes, they call it a shellfish allergy. And then there's obviously something suspect because the management team and the big guy kind of chucks the doctors out of the room, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And things like that. So it's clear they're up to something at that point.
But did you clock the hospital?
Is it from San Junipero?
It's San Juniper Hospital. So
Is it?
she was in a whole other host of trouble in that place, wasn't she?
Yeah.
They've only got the one hospital in the Black Mirror universe, it seems like. Yeah.
She might be the older person who's been in a coma all her life.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
She might be. This might be the prequel for that episode.
Just lucky Rollo didn't get to her.
Yeah, very true. So it's now reported. It's out in the news. At this point, Ashley 2 doll kind of gets switched off, doesn't it? And in fact, on the news article, they say that they stopped selling the doll.
Yeah, the battery issue or something, wasn't it? They
something
destroyed
along
the
those
load.
they destroyed the load. And actually, what they also said is when the Ashley 2 doll kind of witnessed the news story or got told by one of the kids, it would kind of freak out and go into meltdown. And it kind of couldn't handle that news. But the Ashley 2 doll in this house is switched off. And then it cuts to the management team who talk about her being in a coma, and they talk about being able to get music out of her while she's in this state, in this coma. So if you remember, we know that she comes up with songs in her sleep. She's now in a coma full time. So the management team are making use of that and using technology are able to extract music out of her head. And I think one of the comments, I think Catherine made it, was like, we only need 10 songs.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get to a point where we've got another Ashley O album that they can sell and make money off. Why this girl's in a coma.
If putting her in the coma wasn't proof enough, but this really does show how she didn't see her as a niece. Yeah, she saw her as, like you said, a product. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's about time kids give back, isn't it?
Is that what she said?
No. That's just what I was thinking. Take care of all her life. That's a thanks. But
the bit you said was really cool. We'll come on to it about how they took the music from the brain and then were using AI, weren't they, to do the voice?
Yes, yeah, correct. And while that technology was going on, the dad was still trying to do a remote control rat catcher. So then it kind of goes on to 6 months later. The two sisters are in the room, in their bedroom. And it's clear that the dad's left them alone for a little while to fend for themselves, obviously off doing something. And then while Rachel has got her headphones on and not really paying attention to what's on the telly, another update comes on about Ashley O and her coma update and what goes on. And I think at some point they mention the words Ashley wake up, don't they, on the news report or something like that. And that brings Ashley 2 into life because she thinks that's a voice activated, that's activated her. And now her Ashley 2 doll is sitting on the shelf watching the TV article and learning about everything that's happened to her.
And just so, because I'm really proud about this, in that news report, there were 2 other Easter eggs that I picked up.
Go on and tell us.
I was so happy with this. So the news report, because it is like one of these magazine programs, isn't it? And they talk about the British rapper Tusk making a boo-boo on British TV. And that was when he insulted the kid in Hated in a Nation.
Yes.
So we now know roughly when this episode, or in the universe, when this episode takes place. And they also talk about a Sea of Tranquility reboot, which was in Nosedive when she's hitching a ride, and it's apparently a sci-fi program in that universe. So they were talking about that. So
well spotted. The other thing I was going to ask as well. So this obviously the doll gets kind of activated by voices on the TV. I don't know if you've got Alexa in your house, but my Alexa does this as well. If someone's called Alexa's on the TV or something similar to kind of Alexa, my Alexa starts speaking when their name is mentioned. Have you ever had that?
no, do you know what? I've not so far. I've avoided all that sort of thing. I haven't got Alexa or Google Home or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. The other funny one is Ant and Dec did on their show once. They were kind of presenting the show, and then they did like a little skit where they goes, "Hello Alexa, do this," to kind of get like everyone's Alexa in their living rooms, kind of like kickstarted of a thing.
You've just done that now on this podcast.
Yeah, but the millions of people listening have now got their Alexas.
If your Alexa's turned on, let me know. There was a funny one. So the previous Xbox, so was it the Xbox One, when it had the for a bit they were packaging it with like this camera and microphone, so you could voice activate it, so Xbox on or whatever and Xbox off. And there were people, there were videos, you could probably still see on YouTube, where they would name themselves in like Call of Duty Xbox off and would like team kill someone. So they would get angry and shout Xbox off, and their Xbox would then switch off during it.
That is quite funny. I don't know if you have it in Teams meetings now. Is I sometimes get Siri speak to me if I don't know, if like I hit a button on my watch or something. Siri suddenly starts trying to respond to me in a meeting.
I've heard that from a couple of people. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah. Technology, eh? So anyway, so this Ashley 2 listens to all the news, finds out what's happened to Ashley O, and begins to freak out, goes into meltdown, falls off the shelf. The 2 sisters kind of run to her. And I don't know why the urge was to do this, rather than just get the batteries out or just chuck it away, like the thing's broken. Their reaction is to, let's plug it in and try and hack into it, which I thought was quite funny. So yeah, so they plug it into their computer. They get kind of like a brain, like a plan of a brain image, don't they? And they can see like a green active dot in the middle of it. And she goes, "Oh, what happens if you push that?" And she goes, "Oh, what the hell? Let's try it." And they push it, and at that point, everything goes green, and it's explained that actually we're making now full use of this doll's brain, and the doll begins to act more like Ashley O, and is able to talk properly. She starts swearing, doesn't she? She starts effing and blinding as it comes on, so it's more naturally her. And then she kind of explains, "Well, you've removed the limiter. You know, I am a copy of Ashley's brain, but I've had a limiter on all this time, and now the limiter's been removed."
Which feels quite risky, right?
It does feel risky, doesn't it? But very cool. At that point, I thought the doll was cooler than it was before.
Yes, yeah. Well, this is then, like you said, it becomes almost like Miley Cyrus. And I thought some of the lines she was saying and how she was talking and interacting with the sisters as this Ashley version of Ashley 2, I thought was brilliant. I thought there was some hilarious stuff going on there.
Yeah, I should have written down some funny lines, but you're right. There's lots of funny lines in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, it kind of goes on, and Ashley 2 begins to describe that actually what's happened in the news must be false, because I don't have the allergy they're talking about. And Catherine is kind of planning it and scheming it and begins to kind of say that they need to kind of stop what's happening. Then there's a funny scene where it's like, you have to take me there. I can get the evidence if you get me close enough to the computer because I can Bluetooth the notes off. And then she's standing on the desk and she goes, well, if you're not going to help me, I'm going to go myself. So she just like walks off the desk and falls off onto the floor, doesn't she? And there's that funny bit where the doll's trying to stand up but can't. He goes, no, if you're not going to help me, I don't need any help. And it's constantly struggling.
And then it gets to the door, doesn't it? And she goes, well, I need one of you to open the door for me now.
Yeah, because she's all big and brave. Like, I'm going to go all the way to Malibu all by myself.
Yeah.
But can one of you open the door?
And that's what, and again, that's what I thought. From this bit on, I just thought it was brilliant. Yeah.
And then there's a funny scene, isn't there, in the car when, and obviously the two sisters decide to drive the doll to
the
a place
Ratmobile.
in the Ratmobile, and they put Ashley 2. But first of all, they sit her down, and Ashley 2's going, I can't see out the window. So they move her to the drink holder. They go, don't scratch the drink holder because, you know, if Dad finds out we've nicked the car, we'll be in big trouble. And then she swerves like last minute and avoids like an accident. And Ashley 2 turns around and goes, the drink holder's fine. That just had me in stitches. But anyway, we digress. So now this Ashley 2 doll is free from its constraints and is now more like the Ashley personality, explains the truth, and they begin to go towards Malibu. It cuts back to, it is Malibu. I keep saying that. It is definitely Malibu. I've got it in my notes.
Yeah, why not?
No, it is. You can fact check it. Then it kind of goes back to Ashley O in a coma, and Ashley O in a coma is now releasing a very aggressive song, isn't she? Is what she's thinking about. Yeah. And they're trying to take this song and turn it into a bit of a pop song.
Well, it's this one from earlier on, isn't it? About the caged animal, I think. It keeps repeating that bit. But like you said, and I'm glad you said that because I've got a line here, well, a sentence here. All I've got is angry song to happy one, and I couldn't work out what it was. But it was just showing how they can manipulate like a dark song into like one of her pop songs, wasn't it?
Yes. What I didn't note down is what the song actually was and what they turned it to. I can't remember if they changed the words or just gave it happy.
No, I think they changed the tone of the voice, the pitch of the song, sped it up a little bit. It was the same. It was basically the song they took from her, but they just made it sound happier.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that was quite cool. Again, even 6 months on, they're trying to use this girl's thoughts and songs to kind of as a product, or even more of a product now because she's not awake, to be able to release music. And also, I think there's a few scenes, isn't there, where it's quite clear that Catherine is out being a bit of a celebrity and kind of in talks and interviews, isn't there?
Yeah.
And kind of clear that she's not doing it all from her house. She's actually going out and publicising this stuff. Then the girls and the sisters and the doll turns up to a house in Malibu. They sneak in under a disguise of the rat catchers. They dress up and kind of use the van, don't they, to kind of get in. And they kind of sneak Rachel and Ashley 2 upstairs. To at which point Ashley 2 does something that wasn't planned, right? Because the plan was that she was going to go and get the Bluetooth evidence, but she actually wraps herself up in the plug and pulls out the life support, and everything kind of goes red and alerts. I also thought that the scene between Jack and the big guy around kind of the rat and the mice, and how she kind of got him looking at loads of different things, and the way she did that I thought was quite funny. Right, and now we kind of get to the life support. I've missed kind of what the trigger was, but we get to a point where kind of Ashley actually wakes up, don't we? The real Ashley actually wakes up. But I can't remember if there was something else that happened that kind of got her to that point.
I don't think there was. I don't know if maybe the machine, if we're supposed to infer maybe the machine was keeping her in the coma. I don't know. Again, I did know, and I didn't go back to it. I want to check. When the machine's rebooting, it looked like the reboot, the circular sign that Black Mirror episodes start with.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, yeah, that's diversion. No, to answer your question, I just took it that it wasn't a life support machine. It was actually a coma-inducing machine. That's what I took it.
Agreed. So Ashley wakes up. The bodyguards want to get her back into a coma as soon as possible, and the sisters stop him. One of them gets that, and obviously he's a big guy. She gets that electric mice, rat, whatever it is, and kind of throws it at him, and that kind of electrocutes him. But it just shows how powerful that thing is if it knocks out a guy that big. And they're meant to be using it for mice. And then when they're upstairs, then the other one gets banged with a saucepan. And they kind of try to help Ashley O out of the bed. Ashley 2 points out that there's a release button underneath the bed, which I thought was quite funny because they struggled to get her out. And she goes, "Oh, that's a release button there." And they push that, and then they kind of get Ashley O out. They then drive all bundle into the rat van, and they kind of Ashley O kind of points out that we have to stop this eternal Ashley, this kind of production that Catherine is at. They all bundle into the van and they all launch off. And again, there's a really funny conversation between Ashley O and Ashley 2, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because Ashley 2, obviously Ashley O is beginning to grasp, oh my God, this doll actually is me. And they start having a conversation about how they feel about past events, which I thought was quite funny.
Cause to prove it, doesn't Ashley 2 say something about the boy she fancied and then they kissed, but his braces scratched her teeth or something? It was just going on and on and on and on like that.
And there was another bit where they worked out where Catherine was and they started heading there. And it goes, "Oh, don't worry, I know that venue like the back of my hand," type thing. And then Ashley O goes to Ashley 2, "What did you think of the acoustics there?" And they start having like a normal conversation between two friends, which I thought was quite funny. So then, why Catherine is trying to release this eternal hologram of Ashley, which is meant to be kind of live streamed, can do multiple shows, can be in multiple places at the same time.
It's like avatars, isn't it? It's like we see now with ABBA here in the UK, and like when we see the holographic, like Elvis, things like that, isn't it?
Well, ABBA did that show. Was it last year where they weren't actually there?
No, it's still on in London. It's a permanent thing. Yeah, it's basically them when they were young in their heyday performing all their hits. Yeah.
And obviously, Gorillaz did that a while ago, didn't they? Because they were a hologram band.
Yeah.
That was ages ago they did that, wasn't it? Gorillaz were around 15.
Gorillaz probably about 10, 15 years. But yeah, no, the ABBA is a permanent thing. And actually, I've seen some clips. It looks amazing. It looks like they're there.
Yeah. It's really good. And obviously the way it's probably going to go at some point. So then they drive this rat van onto the stage, which obviously looks funny in itself. And then the two sisters get out, and then Ashley O gets out of the van, and obviously everyone realises that Ashley O is now awake. And there's I thought the Catherine reaction was quite funny, wasn't it? Because Catherine just kind of stares like, "Oh, like just like the games type up." Then it ends, and like in some Black Mirror episodes, it does a few cut scenes to different aspects. It shows the dad still trying to sell this rat thing. There's one of the cut scenes, and then it also shows Ashley O performing with Jack, music that Jack was listening to. So completely different type of music. It's now kind of more rocky and playing that sort of format. And it was quite funny because, wasn't it? Because the girls that were Ashley O fans, the fans that kind of went in there expect to see Ashley O, just ran out again because they were horrified because it's now a different type of music. And that's how it ends.
Just on that, I didn't know it. I picked it up, but the song that they're singing at the end, I think it might even be one that they sang at the start in a popular way, but it's actually a song by 9 Inch Nails, so it's quite a hard song, but I think they took it and popified it, which I'm happy with. But yes, what do you think of the episode?
I really liked it. I thought it was really good. You know, I've seen quite a few films. There's a few films out there, isn't there, where kind of not AI, but like doll type things begin to get a life of their own. Like Megan was a recent one, wasn't it, out in the cinemas, where that was a doll that kind of learned and become quite horrific. But I think what Black Mirror did with this, their take on kind of that aspect of a doll that kind of gets clever, I think is the best story. I think the way Black Mirror done it is a better story than a lot of the films I've seen.
Yeah, I really like this, and I know there's some people I know listening to this who are going to disagree, so I hope we can still be friends after. But it wasn't necessarily a great episode where it was a bit cliched in the sense of, introvert kid gets a toy, arguing with the sisters, that they've had a bereavement in the family, and how they can just break into like a superstar's home who's being controlled by quite an evil aunt. Ultimately, I liked it because it was an upbeat episode, apart from the whole coma and keeping her in a, sort of drugged up. It was an upbeat episode. There was some funny elements, and there wasn't anything horrific in it. And it was still able to have those elements of tech and a little bit of sinister in there, but without it being some of the more depressing ones that we've seen.
I thought it was quite funny how you just listed the unrealistic bit of that episode was them driving through an open gate into a Malibu home. Of all the things that happened in the episode, that's the bit you listed as unrealistic and cliche.
I've been watching too much Black Mirror. But I had a few things that I was going to throw at you about some themes, or did you have anything?
No, and well, yeah, I did. I kind of felt like the Miley Cyrus casting of it. I thought was interesting. I thought she was very good in it, and I do wonder how much of it kind of mimics. And I'm not a big Miley Cyrus fan, nor have I followed her, but I know, like we said before, that she was Hannah Montana in like a kids Disney type show, and then there was a complete image change, wasn't there, at a certain point where she released the video for Wrecking Ball, where she was completely different, and there was a lot of talks about now she's being the real her, and I do wonder how much of that episode is kind of not based on it, but kind of reflects what happened to her in real life, because I think she was trying to be a character.
Yeah.
And then at one point she decided, actually, I'm just going to be me now. And then kind of carried on as her.
They said they wanted her from the start, but they didn't think she would want to do it. But yeah, they were really happy when she agreed, because I think she said she was a fan of the show. Yeah, I agree with you. I think she was a perfect choice for it. Ironically, I thought her as Ashley too. She was actually in some ways better than her being Ashley. It was almost like as Ashley, she was having to play someone who was, like we said, majority of it, she was in a coma, right? And then she's coming out of that. But as Ashley too, it was just that fun persona and the fun bouncing off of the two sisters.
Yeah, you're right. That was done very well. You can imagine like the casting when they kind of went to her and said, "Look, we really want you as a big name to star in this episode, but for 80% of it, you're going to be in a coma." Are you interested?
Well, for 80% of it, you're just going to be a voice. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I made note of a few things. So one bit which you can look at the cliche, but it was a whole family setup. So, you said a few times like the dad was distant, and he was, but you never got the impression he wasn't like that he was a bad father. It's just, I think what they didn't do a good job of saying was obviously the mother had died. And so the older sister is kind of going into herself, listening to only the music that she was. The dad was obviously maybe throwing himself into his work, and that's what's kind of not separated them, but made them like they are. Because the thing I got was this: Jack was, I guess, trying to look after her sister, who was becoming dependent on the doll, but she wasn't being the sister her sister wanted her to be as well. So it's like, she was trying to be both. She was trying to not be overly friendly, but then being upset when she was getting that relationship with the doll.
You're right, and I think they kind of mentioned it once, didn't they? Where that showed that the mum had passed away 2 years prior to the events happening that season. As we know, 2 years when you kind of lose a parent when you're that young and with the dad as well trying to cope by himself and do his own grieving. That's no time at all to kind of cope with that, and everyone copes in different ways. So you're right. Probably should made more of a point of him not being made out to be a distant bad dad, but more just a dad that's coping in his own way.
Yeah, and actually, just to go on what you were saying about her being a character, you do wonder how many pop stars, and you see it all the time, don't you? Because you get like a boy band or a girl band, and we kind of saw it. You and I are big fans of the Beatles. When they then split up, they split up, and because they wanted to do their own things. So you do wonder how. Everything we see is managed, especially nowadays, down to the T, aren't they? All their personas, don't say you've got a girlfriend because we want people to think you're single.
And there's lots like that. And I also, when people come into that business, they're usually, late teens, early 20s, when they kind of, when they're a big hit. Obviously young, and they get taken advantage of, don't they? Like, you watch those films like Rocket Man with Elton John and the Elvis one, where they kind of got really bad deals through their first agent. And I think the Beatles were the victim of that as well, weren't they? Where they were taken advantage of by their management company because they were young and naive. And it becomes less about the people and more about the product. I reckon it happens all the time.
Yeah, and you know they've got the confidence now. They've got a few like albums under their belt. They know they've got an audience and they want to do their own thing. But then it is funny as well. Sometimes when a band splits up, it's kind of unusual who then does go on to be successful because it's not necessarily the person you think it'll be, right?
No, exactly. Well, take that's a prime example of that, isn't it? They all thought Gary Barlow was going to
Yeah,
be the next best thing, and Robbie
yeah.
Williams just took off, didn't he?
So you've got a lot of themes running through because I've also then got the isolation and attachment. Well, I've called it attachment to social media because we don't really necessarily have these dolls, but maybe Siri is a replacement friend. Some people maybe, but the way the sister, Rachel, sorry, that Ashley too was her friend. It was her social life, wasn't it? And I kind of took that as like a metaphor replacement for social media and how dependent people are becoming, maybe because that is their only experience of maybe being in a community. I don't know.
Do you think it's better than social media?
Do I? That's a really good question. In some ways I think no. Yeah, in some ways I think no, because no, I can't answer that without sounding like a hypocrite, because I was going to say
No,
that.
well, try. Please go ahead.
You're just going to make me go around in a circle arguing. I was going to say, because it's her being isolated, she's just in a room talking to this robot, but then you're just in a room scrolling through X or Instagram, right? It's the same thing.
What I think, and I don't think we're too far away from these sort of dolls being produced. Like,
Mm.
I really don't, and I think it's going to start to replace friendships and even relationships. Because if you can tick that box about not being lonely, then why do you need to bother going out and talking to other people and making friends? And I think that's when it's going to start getting a bit. You can see how like lonely people depend on social media. I think this could exaggerate it, make it
Yeah.
even worse.
Yeah. It's definitely an upgrade on the Tamagotchis, isn't it?
Oh, well, yeah, I killed my Tamagotchi off after I couldn't. So I can keep mine alive.
I had two other things. So let's do the use of avatars, because I find that really fascinating, because I remember saying a few years ago, now maybe in the back of my head I had this episode, I don't know, but I was thinking, in the future, why, like an artist has to go around the world and has to tour, and there's fatigue and illness. Why couldn't they perform around the world but from their own house? And like I said, you could, or like the aunt was saying here, you could have the biggest concert in the world because you could play simultaneously in 20 countries at the same time.
Yeah.
So you've got people going to venues, because that's what's happening with this ABBA thing. Like we were saying, for those who don't know, they're called avatars, which I think is brilliant.
That's pretty clever. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no, called avatars. Yeah, and it's no, it's not the O2. It's its own arena, but it's in a concert arena, and it's massive sized younger versions of them performing all the hits. And yeah, it's a concert. And so why, we've seen it before. I think Elvis, I can't remember who else. So why wouldn't modern stars now potentially take the strain out of constant touring? Because it is that person, right? You are seeing that person live, performing live. It's just a hologram of them performing live.
And they probably have a big enough fan base to do it as well, right? Like, I still think even if you had one of those, eternal Ashleys and on the
Yeah.
hologram, well, the avatars have proven that show's still going after what? How many years? 2 years? 1 year?
It's at least a year. Let's call it 2 years. Yeah.
So you've still got ABBA fans going to watch that show. So there's still an appeal to watch essentially a hologram.
Okay. So how about this then? You, in your house, you buy a mat or something, you put it in front of your TV or your PlayStation, and you have like the Beatles performing a live concert. Maybe you need a VR or AR, alternate reality headset, but you don't even have to go to a venue. They can be performing in your living room.
I think no, because if you think about film and the cinema, I prefer to go to the cinema to watch a film than I do to watch a film on my telly. So I think there's still something about the ambience of watching it at a venue. I think
Could though cater for people, like they often say, events in England are often London centric. So maybe if you can't really afford to
Yeah,
get down
true.
to London.
Yeah.
I was going to say, imagine having a football match, but you've got to have a big living room to have that virtual. But maybe snooker. You could have
Yeah.
sport, darts. You could have that avatar. I was going to call it avatars in your room.
Talking about snooker, this is not about Black Mirror at all, but I saw a clip of Ronnie Sullivan the other day with a
I
VR
know what you're going to
headset
say.
on.
I love it.
And he goes to lean on the pool table to play a shot, and he kind of almost forgets that it's got VR, and goes to lean on the table, and he falls over.
I recorded an episode. Well, the episode I've recorded is going to go out a few weeks after this, but with Slade from the Game Club Pod, and I mentioned that we were talking about VR games because whenever anyone or I get into a conversation about VR, that's always the clip I bring up because it's brilliant. It's brilliant because it's just muscle memory for him, isn't it? He goes to lean on the table and it's not there.
Yeah, very true.
I've got one more thing that I had. I've got digitization of media, but I think what I meant by that was that scene where they take the music from her head and then manipulate that dark song into a happy song. So there's something about that, isn't it? Can you imagine? Because we all think, oh, we have great ideas about something, but you forget them the next morning. So imagine if you could have something like the headset in the Black Museum that transmits things. Imagine if you woke up and then everything you've been dreaming could be extracted.
I could almost like get it to work for me. Like, well, just like plug it into my work laptop.
Right, that was all I had for kind of like themes or thoughts. Was there anything you had else?
No, nothing extra. I was just reading some interesting some other people's comments about it. Some people thought it was a dig at Disney, which I thought was an interesting view about the way you can kind of get that with like the way they did the Mickey Mouse Club, didn't they? And the people that kind of came through that, and I think Miley Cyrus was part of that. I think Hannah Montana was Disney, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah,
it's close enough, isn't it? We'll put it into that group. So yeah, I thought that's quite interesting. But it's quite interesting. What we like you said before, you look down some of the comments. There's a lot of hate for it, which I don't quite get. I thought it was quite good.
I do wonder if it's because it is upbeat in a way.
And do you know what? It had a happy ending as well, which is not like Black Mirror episodes. And there wasn't any wonder, and you know exactly what happened, and you knew it was happy.
Yeah.
So I felt like the ending, they ended it really, really well, which we don't often say for Black Mirror episodes.
Yeah, like I said, don't get me wrong. I do like some of the darker themed episodes, but I just love that you could. This is one you could put on to somebody possibly who hasn't watched a Black Mirror episode to get almost sort of get them into it, ease them into it.
Yes, yeah, agreed.
Just a couple of things on it. I had that Brooker based the episode on a sitcom script he'd written years earlier about a punk band who are hanged and returned to life to find their manager profiting off their deaths. And it also featured holographic performances by deceased artists. So that would already be a darker themed episode, right?
Yeah, very true.
He considered AI as a means for creating a program which could imitate John Lennon's songwriting or serve as a celebrity virtual assistant. Now, I don't know if you've seen recently the kind of leaps that AI has done in terms of videos. We are getting to the point where we are seeing this being possible. So bear in mind, this was 5 years ago. You probably have got AI imitating John Lennon now.
Well, it wasn't in the latest Star Wars film where Princess Leia was in it, but it was filmed after she died.
Yeah, but I think this is more having like an AI write or almost.
Oh, I see.
Out.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you. Yeah,
and this feels really random. What would you think about this? So, according to Brooker, an unused idea saw Catherine, so the aunt, revealed as a non-human, either with her face being removed to display machinery behind it, or with her disappearing in a puff of smoke.
No, I think that I would automatically deduct 4 points if that's the way it ended.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it didn't do that. In terms of some Easter eggs, other than the ones I'd mentioned, I didn't see these ones, but the news report also, or there's a news ticker that reads, architect arrested on multiple murder charges, which is Mia Nolan from Crocodile. One of the songs Ashley sings is that song that keeps cropping up, Anyone Who Knows What Love Is. Now, I didn't pick up on that.
No, I didn't pick up on that either.
Briefly in the background, while Rachel and Jack are talking, there is a commercial or a news article on the TV that mentions the Willow grain implant, which is the entire history of you. We've mentioned Tusk. Oh, the recurring white bear theme is manifested, they're saying, in Ashley's bodyguard, who is called Bear. We've mentioned San Junipero. We've mentioned Sea of Tranquility. The only other one, the second news ticker reads, narrative creator still missing. Saito Gemu shares jump on striking Viper's release, and museum owner's body found in smoking ruins. So you've got playtest. I know. So the first one, the narrative creator missing, relates to Bandersnatch, which we haven't done. Saito Gemu shares is playtest. Striking Vipers is Striking Vipers, and the museum owner's body is Black Museum. So that's everything I had. Before we go into the scores, was there anything else?
No, well, I was just reading up on IMDb some of the interesting facts, and I saw that while they were acting this out, and just as Ashley O was about to wake up from a coma, Miley Cyrus's house got burnt down in the 2018 California wildfire.
Oh, did it?
And her home was burnt to the ground. She went on to say this is what motivated her breakdown scene and caused her to cry even more. Unbelievable, isn't it? But yeah, no, nothing else for me. I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was good. I thought it was different from the usual Black Mirror episode, and I liked the way it ended.
So what's your score?
I want to give it a 7.5.
That feels low, considering you said all that.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. 7.5.
Okay, yeah, all right. I'll give it an 8.1.
I'm gonna give it an 8.2. Then I was gonna give it 8.
What? No way! You can't
All
go
right,
more than
8.
me. You've been slating it.
I'll stick with 8. So, sorry. So, what did you say? 8.2.
8.2. Yeah, you can go 8. No, or did I say 8.1?
Oh, 8.1. You said no, 8.1 because I was going to go 8.2. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I've given it 8. Yeah, everything you said basically. I liked it. It was upbeat, and yeah, and I thought Miley Cyrus was really good.
Yeah, she was really good. A really good choice for the episode, and it's obviously a bit of a. I know we've been getting some big name actors, but she's obviously not known for her acting, is she? She's a celebrity in a different way, which makes a bit of a change, doesn't it?
Right, well, that was season 5. So next episode, we start the final run of current episodes anyway. So what is that? Season 6, episode 1, Joan is Awful. Anything you want to say before we go?
No, I'm done.
I want to shout out the PodPack Collective. And yeah, we'll see you next week for Joan is Awful.
1, 2, 3, 4. If I want your opinion, I will give it to you. Come on, check what we got, 'cause you need it. Don't make us get